Hey guys, JC the Sniper here, and as you can see, I've got two knives on the table today. Both my Stretch, which apparently has thread stuck in it. So I've got the Stretch and the Endura 4 full flat ground. So we're going to compare these two blades today, because I got a question from a viewer last night on which one I prefer. And it's a little bit of a complicated question because they're both great knives. So I just figured I'd make a video on it, compare them, do it upright. And so here's what I'm going to use today. It's kind of an extension of my talking points. And this is kind of an idea that I got from X-Acto. You can see here we've got the two different knives on here. We've got several categories: weight, size for EDC, size for defensive use, steel, blade shape for EDC, defensive use and just looks, speed, lockup and strength, handle, ergos and materials, clip design, and durability. So those are my categories that we're going to be comparing this in today. And I know you can't read that off the page while it's laying there, but you'll just have to believe me when I tell you what's on it. Alright, so let's get started. First of all, weight. Spyderco Endura, 3.8 ounces. Spyderco Stretch, 3.4 ounces. So, you know, a little over 1/3 of an ounce difference between these two knives. Endura is a little bit bigger, Stretch is a little bit lighter. However, just because it's lighter will give the Stretch the win in that category. So, you know, it's lighter, and that's generally what we're going to want in a knife. So Endura loses on that just by, you know, just barely. However, the Endura is a good weight as well, so we'll kind of give the Endura, you know, kind of half a point on that. Alright, size. The Endura has almost a 4-inch blade, just under a 4-inch blade. The Stretch has just like a little bit over 3.5-inch blade. It's like 3 7/8 or something. And as you can see, it's a little bit shorter, just a little bit, you know, maybe 1/4 inch shorter. So not much difference there. However, for defensive use, well, then we've got the handles. As you can see, the handles are different sizes. Got them sitting on the table, and the Endura is about almost an inch longer in the handle than the Stretch. So for defensive use, I'm going to say the size of the Endura is better. It's bigger, has a longer blade. You're going to have more reach. You know, you can lock in all the way back here, and you've got all that reach. You lock in back as far as you can on the Stretch, you don't quite have as much reach. So you get about an inch more with the Endura overall, combining the handle and the blade with the way you can reach with it. So for defensive use, I'm going to say the win on size goes to the Endura. However, the Stretch is still a very good size for defensive use. So, you know, the Stretch can definitely work that way. And I'm going to give the Stretch half a point in that category as well. Because it works. It's big enough that you can use it for defensive use. It's just not quite as good as the Endura. So the Endura wins, but not by much. Size for EDC. Well, as you can see, the Endura is a very large knife. Overall, I mean, it's big. It's got a big handle. It's got a big blade. A lot of cutting surface, which is great. But for EDC, it's probably bigger than what you're going to need for most cutting tasks. I mean, there's not that many cutting tasks that you need a full-size 4-inch blade for, except maybe, you know, preparing a meal where you've got, you know, maybe a longer block of meat or cheese or something. Maybe that would be useful. But for the most part, you don't need a blade that big. You know, for the most part, a blade like the Buck Bantam, you know, most of the time that size is sufficient. You know, you don't really need anything bigger than that. Even something smaller a lot of the time, like a one of these little case knives, I forget the model. But, you know, generally, that's going to be sufficient for a lot of your EDC tasks. You just need to cut a box open, something like that. This will work for you. So, for EDC, it's a little bit oversized for most things, and I don't have a problem with that. I carry this for EDC, and it's great. The thing that I don't like about it is the fact that if you whip this out somewhere, it's huge and it's intimidating and it's scary looking for a lot of people. So for that reason, you know, it's kind of a, I don't know, it's a little bit of a drawback to the Endura. The Stretch is much less intimidating looking. It's a little bit smaller, kind of funky looking. When you choke up on it, it just makes the blade look smaller. It doesn't look that massive thing, you know. And I think it looks a little bit friendlier, and I think it's a little bit more appropriate size for EDC for most things. So we'll give EDC to the Stretch, but once again we'll give the Endura half a point. So the Stretch wins on size for EDC, but not by much. Blade steel, both of these blades are in VG10. You can get the Stretch in ZDP 189. That's not what I have. They're both VG10, and for the price, you're going to get, you know, comparable blades. You're going to get VG10 steel. So we'll give them both a check in that, because the VG10 is great. I don't have any problems with it, and it's the same. So blade shape. Blade shape for EDC. For EDC, I'm going to say the Stretch is a little bit better blade shape. Both of these blades are full flat ground, which is excellent. But it's probably hard to tell. The Stretch has more belly than the Endura. You can see the Endura has a pretty straight run and then hooks up a little bit towards the tip, whereas the Stretch starts about right here and has a significant hook up towards the tip. So it's got more belly for, you know, slicing stuff, things like that. So, you know, that's nice. Also, with the way it hooks, it gives you a nice sturdy tip. A little bit sturdier than the tip on the Endura, because just because of the way the steel is shaped, and it's still sharp. So you can do everything you're going to need to with this, and you know, it's got all that nice belly, which is what you're going to use most of the time when you're cutting stuff. So I think you get to use more of the run of the blade with the Stretch than you do with the Endura. So for EDC, I'm going to say the Stretch wins on blade shape. Not that the Endura is not good for EDC. It's still great for EDC. I still carry it for EDC, but I think the Stretch's blade shape's a little bit better for that. Blade shape for defensive use, I'm going to say it's pretty much a tie. You know, they're very similar sizes. The blade shape is not going to, you know, make that much difference from Stretch to Endura. You know, both of them have nice points, you know, reasonably comparable points. The Endura's is a little bit finer, just because it's tapered further down than the Stretch. So, you know, stabbing cut or a stab attack, they're both going to function pretty much exactly the same. You know, they've got that nice thumb ramp on the back of the blade with really excellent jimping. You're going to dig into and just, you know, not going to notice the difference there. For a slicing attack, the Stretch might be a little tiny bit better, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. I mean, you've got enough blade on this Endura that if you slash somebody with it, it's not really going to matter that, you know, the Stretch has a little bit more curve there. So you're going to get about the same for that. So blade shape for defensive use, I'm going to give them both a check. Say they both win in that. Equally good blades for defensive use. Both good stabbers, both good slashers. Same difference. Looks. Originally, I definitely preferred the way the Endura looks. I really like that large flat ground blade. I think it looks really sweet. However, the Stretch is pretty cool looking too, and it grows on me. So, I don't know. I like them both. I think maybe the Endura wins. Not by much, you know. So basically, looks, I'm just going to give them both a check. Maybe I'll give the Endura a check 0.5, or an X 0.5, and I'll just give the Stretch an X. I think the Endura looks a little bit better. Speed, the Stretch wins. It's faster. It's easier to pop out. It comes out quicker. And I think that's mostly because of the way the thumb hole is closer to the pivot. Now they both come out really fast, but the Stretch is faster. And also it has a little bit larger thumb hole. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but it is a little bit larger. If I put them over each other, you can see that through the hole in the Stretch, you can see all the edges. It's about 1 millimeter larger. Not much of a difference, but there is a difference. So that might help you deploy it a little bit quicker. So speed goes to the Stretch. Lock up and strength. It's exactly the same. Both use a back lock. Both have the David Boyd dent. They're both extremely strong knives. They both have stainless steel liners. Same handle materials, everything. So lock up and strength. Point for both. Handle. Ergonomics. Going to be good on both of them. Really good ergonomics on the Endura. Lays in your hand nicely. Good ergonomics on the Stretch as well. Just lays in your hand real good. You can get a back grip, you can get a forward grip, you can grip up here. You know, so I'm going to give them both a tie on the ergonomics as well. No, there's a lot of ties, but that's why this is a hard comparison. Handle materials, both FRN, both stainless steel liners. Going to give them both a tie on that as well. Clip design, once again, excellent on both blades. Pretty much exactly the same. They ride pretty much the same depth in the pocket. Reversible to all four corners on both knives. Both have nice large lanyard holes which are allowed to be accessed by the clip. So, tie on that also. And durability, same blade steel, same handle material, same liners, same Spyderco thing. They're gonna tie on durability as well. And overall likability of the knife, again, this is really hard. This isn't on the list, but overall likability, I'm gonna give to the Endura. It's just a really awesome feeling knife. However, the Stretch is growing on me, and it feels really good too. So once again, it's really close, but I think I'm gonna give overall likability to the Endura, just barely. So what do we score? Well, I'm gonna cut this. We'll go to part 2 for the scoring. So stay tuned for part 2.